Donald Trump has officially become the 47th President of the United States, a shock that has rocked the world. And naturally our Prime Minister, with his tendency to always seek the spotlight, immediately challenged Trump right after his victory. Let's see what silly move this dreamer of a Prime Minister will make next. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the latest hot political news. The arrogance of the Labour Party may have caused irreparable damage to the relationship between the UK and the only US president in many decades who has consistently supported this country. In the days of excitement when Joe Biden finally announced the end of a long working day and handed the torch to Vice President Kamala Harris, with polls showing she was set to win, the Labour Party could not contain its enthusiasm and openly declared its support for the Democratic Party in the election. To demonstrate their commitment, they sent 100 activists and staff to participate in the Democratic Party's presidential campaign. At the time, leader Keir Starmer confidently claimed that Trump was certain to lose and that the Labour Party would be thanked by President Harris in the next 4 years. But as usual, no one can predict exactly what the future holds. Now, Starmer may have to reflect on a more complicated situation. In addition to having to apologise to President Trump for the Labour Party's thoughtless actions, he faces a more serious issue, his own Foreign Secretary. David Lammy, in his unrelenting effort to please every audience he encounters, once described Trump as a socially deranged neo-Nazi. This is language that could only come from a sixth form student in a school debate, or from someone who did not expect to meet the person they were criticising. Yet Lammy, as the current Foreign Secretary for the UK, is the country's representative abroad, including in the United States. His baseless insults aimed at the winner of the 2024 presidential election not only reflect poorly on him personally, but also accuse the American voters of choosing someone unworthy of the world's most important position. There is no reasonable justification for Lammy's stance. A Foreign Secretary must maintain a strong relationship with the UK's most important ally, and Lammy has failed in this duty. The relationship between the UK and the US must not be influenced by any foreign power, especially in deciding who serves in the UK cabinet and in what roles. However, if the UK government decides to dismiss or demote Lammy as soon as possible, it would send a strong message to the new administration that Starmer is serious about repairing the damage caused by Lammy's careless and thoughtless language, which has harmed the special relationship between the two countries. Although the current government may not fully endorse the idea of a global Britain post-Brexit, looking back at Trump's presidency, it's clear that he was very keen to sign a transatlantic trade deal with the UK, something that neither his predecessor nor his successor has shown much interest in. Therefore, sacrificing Lammy might be a small price to pave the way for a breakthrough in relations between the two nations. Starmer himself has not shied away from publicly criticising President Trump in the past. He hasn't always been careful when making comments about him. In January 2016, during a debate in the House of Commons over a petition to ban Trump from entering the UK, Starmer said, "We totally condemn Donald Trump's comments on issues such as Mexican immigrants, Muslims and women." He called Trump's remarks absolutely disgusting and argued that his views sought to label entire communities as suspicious. "Of course, I wouldn't want Donald Trump to come and have dinner and express his views," Starmer said, though he also noted that he did not think banning Trump from entering the UK was reasonable. The then Home Secretary remarked, "I would invite him to my constituency at the bottom of the list to meet with voters because my area is very diverse and multicultural." He also emphasised, "We should be guided by our own values, not his. Our values include a deep belief in freedom of speech and a multi-faith society where everyone feels safe and respected." After Trump's election in 2016, Starmer continued to criticise him, both as a member of the shadow cabinet under Jeremy Corbyn and as a leader of the opposition. In June 2018, the Labour leader tweeted, "Humanity and dignity, two words that President Trump does not understand," referencing images of children being held in cages at US immigration detention centres. The following year, he continued his speech. Donald Trump's support shows everything we need to know about the distortions in Boris Johnson's politics. Sir Keir did not stop criticising the Conservative Party over plans which were said to sell the NHS to Donald Trump's America. He also condemned Trump's peace plan for Israel and Palestine, which he labelled as fake. Moreover, he criticised Dominic Cummings' actions during the lockdown, calling them Donald Trump's tactics. When commenting on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris' victory in the 2020 US presidential election, Sir Keir said, "Their victory is one of hope and unity, a pushback against dishonesty and division." The Labour leader also emphasised that this is a moment to reaffirm America's position as a force for good on the international stage. However, after Donald Trump completed his 45th term as president, Starmer seemed to lose interest in him during the 4 years of Joe Biden's administration. But as the Democratic Party's term began to wind down, he started shifting his approach, moving towards a far more diplomatic manner. In May, when Trump was charged with 34 serious counts, Sir Keir acknowledged that this was an unprecedented situation. There is no doubt about it. However, he also stated, "Ultimately, whether or not he can be re-elected will be for the American people to decide, and clearly, if we have the honour of serving, we will work with whoever they choose as president." Not stopping there. Just a few months later, after Trump's victory in the election, the Prime Minister met with him in New York for a 2-hour dinner. The Prime Minister was accompanied by Foreign Secretary David Lammy, who had previously referred to Trump as a depraved man sympathetic to neo-fascists. Sir Keir later rejected accusations from Trump's campaign, claiming that the Labour Party had illegally interfered in the election by supporting Kamala Harris' campaign. He emphasised that he and Trump still maintained a good relationship. Finally, the Prime Minister sent warm congratulations to Trump, calling his victory historic, while reaffirming the desire to continue maintaining a relationship as America's closest ally. Returning to the story of the failure of someone whom the Labour Party had rallied its full force to support, the current situation is forcing the government and the Foreign Secretary to face immediate consequences. This could be seen as a valuable lesson for those within the party. Kamala Harris' disastrous failure, where she could not even come close to the White House at such a crucial moment, should actually serve as a wake-up call for progressive left-wing politicians in Western democracies. However, will any real change come from these lessons? This lesson became clear as early as 2016, when a self-righteous, arrogant Democratic Party crowned Hillary Clinton as the inevitable winner of that year's election. After all, who could lose to a man as uncharismatic as Donald Trump? Yet, Clinton's contempt for the working-class Americans without a university degree, along with her unrealistic concerns about transgender rights, such as the issue of using women's bathrooms in Oklahoma, failed to resonate with a broad swath of voters. This remains a mystery. 8 years later, Joe Biden could have accepted the unchangeable truth about his age and allowed the Democratic Party to search for a new candidate over the past year, helping the eventual winner endure the usual rigour and scrutiny of the primary election process. However, instead of doing that, he left the party and the country with no other choice but Kamala Harris, the woman who had dropped out of the race in 2020 when competing with Biden for the Democratic nomination without securing a single delegate to the party's national convention. It wasn't just the way she became the candidate that irritated voters, but the policy platform she represented. Across the United States, and indeed throughout the Western world, woke ideology is causing significant harm to both politics and society. Gender identity and critical race theory, although originating in the US, have spread like a virus across the Atlantic. Among the viral clips circulating on social media, few were more damaging to Kamala Harris than the moment she introduced herself to the public in a clear and self-satisfied manner as Kamala Harris, she, her. It wasn't the self-praise that made her uncomfortable, but the assumption that worshipping such pronouns is now not only mandatory, but also normal. Does she really not realise how strongly ordinary Americans oppose such absurdities? Does she understand that many voters associate such language with actions like kneeling and the demands from the Black Lives Matter movement to defund the police? All of these things have a negative impact, from language and self-satisfaction to the policies the White House has promoted over the past 4 years. The Labour Party must also learn from Donald Trump's second victory before it goes too far down the same path. Because if British voters decide to follow the lead of their American counterparts, Politicians in the UK will have reason to worry when the ballots are opened in upcoming elections. What do people think about the issues we have discussed in today's video? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on the latest political developments in the UK. Thank you all and see you in the next videos.